Hello, once again, I'm going to analyze one of my games. So today we have a Roy Lopez Berlin Defense game that I played a few months ago on chess.com, and so let me start off by um, talking about Roy Lopez. So I think most people know it's the most popular opening, the Spanish opening, E4, E5, NF3, NC6, and then BB5. Uh, so it's pretty common opening where uh, white is attacking the pawn on E5, and then black defends the pawn, and then white then attacks the knight, um, and then the other variations of the Spanish opening, you will see A6 being played. Um, but today we're not going to talk about A6. Today's game is about Berlin defense, and so NF6 is played, and that's the Berlin defense in the Spanish opening. And so now white has many options to reply, and the most common one is to castle. Um, but um, there are also other choices like um, white could play NC3, which would transpose to four knights variation, four knight Spanish variation. um, and then white could also play D3, and then usually black replies with BC5, which you can call it as the classical variation. But nowadays you find that white will castle, and then again now black has few options: BC5, which is the classical variation, or um, you will also play A6, then BA4, B5. Um, but in this game, black chose to take on the pawn, which is like a open variation in the Berlin defense, and then white replies. The most uh, common move and the main line is to play d4, and so d4 is basically saying that I'm going to take control of the center, so I'm going with d4, and I'm not afraid of losing another pawn. And then you can see what happens if the knight takes the pawn. uh, then the white captures the knight, and then um, the queen captures, and so I mean white loses the pawn, but I think that there's white will be attacking and developing um, faster than black, and so that's an advantage. And then the other option is capturing with the pawn, and then now white can capture the knight, and then d cross c6, and now queen cross the pawn, and then the queen takes, and then knight takes, and so now you have the the center is open, and even though black has pawn, it's not really that big a deal. I would say this would be like a drawish position. Okay, so getting back to the game, so d4, and then here my opponent black played nd6, which is the open Berlin, and also it has some other name I forgot, but anyway, so nd6, it's also a common move, and so then I chose to exchange off my bishop with the knight, um, and so I did. So I wanted to reduce the complexity a little bit, and so I did. And then I captured the pawn here. And so now black has several options. Where should the knight go? Um, and so one of the options is to go to n e4, but this is not usually played. Uh, Usually, the knight goes to nf5, which is what was played in my game. Um, so let's just look at the other option here, n e4. Um, then white can play queen e2, um, and then black could develop a piece bf5, and then white tries to put pressure on black and take control of the center and like plays rd1, and then the queen goes to c8, and the knight goes, rook goes to d4, the knight goes to c5, the be3 is played, and then this is a really good setup for white. It's attacking, and almost all the pieces are developed, and it's a good. I would like to be on white side. This was played, um, and so here in the actual game, after d cross e5, nf5 is played, and so straight away I'm thinking I need to go and exchange the queens. I didn't want to put my queen anywhere else or let him capture my queen. um, I just wanted to not allow my opponent to castle, and so I exchange the queens. And the king captures the queen, and then so now I was thinking, all I need to do now is develop my pieces. But still, on the queen side, I still have a lot of pieces that are not developed. So I played nc3, and then my opponent also tried to develop his bishop, played bd7, and then I chose to play h3. And so you must be wondering why h3? What's so great about that? No, well, the thing is, this mm, this pawn on g7 could move up. Uh, uh, Maybe the bishop goes here and then the pawn goes, or h6 is played and then g4 is played. Because my plan was to bring out the bishop to f5 or f4, and I didn't really want to check because it wouldn't really achieve anything. Um, and so I didn't want this pawn to get to g4 in the future, so I wanted to play h3 ahead of time, and also later on when I play bf4, I wanted to have a space here. So, so that's the reason. And so as expected, my opponent plays h6, and I go bf4, and then g5, and I go to bh2. And so and then black plays bg7 because it's really good to be on the diagonal. Bishops should always be on the diagonals. That gives you more power. Um, so now I'm like, my rook on a file is not really used yet, so I bring it out to d, and black now plays case c8. So probably they'll want uh, to be pinned like that. So that's a good move. And then I played g4. So why did I play g4? Simply because I wanted to attack my opponent's knight, and I saw that there's no good place on my side for the black knight, so it will have to go back, and um, I wanted to cramp up black's position, and so black goes to e7, and then I played in e4. And so my plan was to get on to this square, so c5 square, and of course black immediately saw that and played b6. And so and then I was like, what should I do now? What should be my plan now? So, but I wanted to get onto that square, c5, and attack this bishop, but I was not allowed to do that. Um, and so I thought to myself that I need to move this pawn now. So I moved it c4. Um, and of course, I didn't check any of this with the computer. This is all me analyzing my own games. Um, and whenever I feel like there is a better, if I find a better move, then I will tell you here. But otherwise, and if you find a better move, you can also write in the comments below. So okay, I played c4, and then be6 is played. So directly, straight away attacking this pawn as well as the pawn behind it. Um, and so I was I, I didn't really want to sacrifice a pawn, so I played b3. And of course, uh, that was played not only to protect the pawn on c4, but also the pawn on a2, right? Because in future I'm planning on playing c5, um, the pawn to c5. Um, and so my opponent here played kb7. That's not a bad move, connecting the rooks here. Um, and so let's see what. So I have a variation here. Um, yeah, so I played c5 as I said I would play, and then my opponent actually here played r d8. But let's just look at what would happen if my opponent captured the pawn or the exchanged it on. So I would check, and then k b6 would be played, and then I would capture the bishop with my knight, and then the pawn captures the knight, and then I play n d4. So what is the advantage of doing that? Well, in my analysis, I think that the pawn on e6 is lost now. There's no way black can protect that pawn uh, without, losing a piece. And I don't see any substantial counter attack, uh, to divert my attention from capturing the pawn on e6, and black cannot protect it. So I'm winning a pawn. If this was played, if he captured, uh, this would have happened. Black would have lost a pawn, in my opinion. But anyway, black did not play that. Black tried to exchange of the rooks, and I agreed with my opponent. I was like, let's reduce the complexity a little bit. So I exchanged the rooks. Then I moved the knight on f to d2, on f3 to d2, and so my plan was to go to c4. Um, uh, I'm not sure why. Maybe I was just maybe I wanted to clear the line for the f pawn or f2 pawn. I wanted to move that pawn, so I did, and then my opponent played n d5, and so as soon as my opponent played d5, then I was like, okay, I need to put a hold on f2 to f4, and I need to now play n c4. So I did. So my hope was that he will play b5 in return, and then I would play an a5 check, and then he would lose the pawn on c6. But unfortunately, that didn't happen, as as it happens always in chess. Your opponent never plays to your plans. So my opponent went back, and so I didn't have any uh, other move here. I didn't want to capture the pawn, um, the pawn. I didn't want to exchange the pawns here. I wanted to keep the tension here, and I didn't find any other good moves. So I was like, uh, I'm going back to d2, and I will wait for my opponent to play something else, or I will go for a draw. Um, and then luckily my opponent played f5. Um, and so as soon as he played f5, I was like, I might. I analyzed the position, uh, and I was I was confident that I would gain something out of this exchange, and so I did on pause on the pawn, um, and so we exchanged of pieces here, and then and so now the position is equal, uh, but after these exchanges, I was like, if I play re1, which I did, if I played re1, I was like, I'm getting one of the two pieces there, so I did well. Um, but then my opponent played bd5, um, and freely offering me the piece. Um, and of course, I don't think there was any other better move here. I think this is the best move in this position Black played. Um, so, so what was the intention here?